Happy Sunday and welcome to What People Miss. Today, I am going to talk about something that is very, very close to my heart. And this is
Happy
about
Sunday and welcome to
Juneteenth.
What People Miss.
So Juneteenth is um, it's a historical event that happened in 1865, right? We're taught in school that there was a document called the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed all the enslaved people, all of them. Now, one would question how all the people who were enslaved at that time, when we didn't have internet, we didn't have phones, and um, even love letters took 2 to 3 months to arrive. How is it possible that people over the expanse of about 2,000 miles or more, right? Or let's say about 23 states, right? Would have found out at the same time that they were emancipated. Now, what is unconscionable is that knowing it could take up to 2 or 3 months for information to be disseminated, that it took 2.5 years is like, it's almost like they didn't want to share the knowledge of the proclamation. So we can look at that and be angry, enraged, let's be fair, right? And think like it's as if the situation was pitted against the enslaved people, right? Or you have another choice. The choice I always like to choose is this is an opportunity. Every hardship, every difficult situation is always an opportunity. I feel like it's our birthright to choose. And so I'm naming all the episodes this month the Jewels of Juneteenth, right? So last month was all about mothers. And this month is all about the Jewels of Juneteenth. This is our opportunity to create emotional healing as a new liberation. It's your birthright to savor your life, not just survive, right? So what happened next? All those people found out that they're no longer enslaved. What you don't know is what really happened. There were a fair amount of enslaved people who actually could read, write, and they were running the books, they were running the businesses for so many plantations. It's going to be a bit of a history lesson as well as an emotional healing and personal development, each one of these episodes. So what really happened is there's an era called the Reconstruction era. During the Reconstruction era, there was the most Black wealth, Black businesses, and Black politicians, like in places that you didn't even know. Mississippi, Alabama had Black governors, Black mayors, Black senators, Black congressmen. Um, there were, we know about pockets here and there, but places like Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? It's just now coming out. But I knew this before all y'all knew it. You know why? Because in 1911, my dad was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and my grandfather was one of those businessmen that were on the Black Wall Street. And he had the foresight to leave in 1919 and move on to elsewhere, and landed in Chicago. By the time the genocide happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, fortunately for me, I exist because my grandfather had the foresight to leave and take my father, and my grandmother to Chicago and start their lives there. So many of the national parks, many of the beautiful lakes are previous towns and cities where that were part of the Reconstruction era, where these thriving Black societies existed. And I want us to think about one day these people were enslaved, and the next day they were free, legally able to establish themselves as human beings. It sounds, I mean, I'm laughing, but it's not funny. Because up until the Emancipation Proclamation, a Black man was 3/5 of a human. But Black women weren't even spoken of. Okay? So going from being perceived as not human or partially human to being perceived as a whole human, and immediately taking advantage of all of the resources and access that immediately became available. If we were to fast forward and think about it in terms of today, right? So there was no internet, and then there was internet, and all the people that couldn't have businesses one day all of a sudden could have businesses because of the internet. And you could do all the things that you could ever want to do. And it took how many years for the laws to catch up to stop you from doing that, right? So likewise, with the Reconstruction era, there was this major boost of Black businesses, Black money, Black wealth, and all these things. Black societies and communities helping and growing each other. And of course, humans are humans. There was some infighting, right? We know about, well, I don't know. I know about, because my great grandmother spent time with these people, the issues with Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois. She was, in that society of women that were not behind the scenes, but parallel to that group of men that were running the Harlem Renaissance and all the things happening there. So, and I'm named after my great grandmother who was part of that and spending time with those people. So when I speak of history, I'm literally sharing from my family's personal experiences, because Black people have always disseminated our history from word of mouth, right? We have griots in Africa, but here in America, our families would tell us our family history and our lineage for those of us who knew it. And I am fortunate enough to be one of those people who knows my personal family history. I can go back to the 1300s on my dad's side, and I can go back to the 1500s on my mom's side. So I'm not making this up. And to stay on topic, this Reconstruction era, where we had all these booming businesses, is what I want to name as the jewels of Juneteenth, because now we have another opportunity, right? Post-COVID, I'm going to call all of it caring about DEI or DEI explosion, right? Post all that, we're in a reconstruction era. I would say emotionally, mentally, definitely politically, absolutely financially. So in this reconstruction era, this emotional reconstruction era, I am inviting you to not despair. I love to see all of these invitations to rest and everything, and that's great. I've been out here talking about that for 10 years, right? Creating sustainable practices of self-nurturing, because that's the way I live my life, and that's the way I'm able to um, I would say savor my life, right? Because I'm in practice and I'm always in search of more practices to create sustainable practices of self-nurturing in my own personal life. I invite my clients to that. I invite people who listen to my podcast to that. I feel like that's my community service, my podcast, and any of my free online content. Even my free experiences, like the one that I'll invite you to at the end of this podcast today. So, in your emotional reconstruction, I invite you to truly, truly, truly not despair. You see, because this is the supreme form of rest when your nervous system feels safe. So you can take all the naps you want, go on all the retreats you want, meditate as much as you want. But if you don't have a practice that helps you to rewire your nervous system and detach you from those etheric cords that are connecting you to your ancestry, right? I'm specifically speaking to the descendants of the previously enslaved or the people who have been that were previously colonized. And I'm also inviting you, if your people were not previously enslaved, right? So some of my ancestors were enslaved and some of them were not. Some of them were always free in the United States. And some of them were never free in the United States. And some of them became free later. And then there's another part of my ancestry, right? My Native American ancestry, my mom's mother, my dad's mother, were both half Native American. I would say these people were colonized, right? And so I have both enslaved, colonized, I guess all three, and free people within my ancestry. And what we don't realize is we all have that. We have those etheric cords in our ancestry, in our nervous system. We now know some of the scientific studies about the connections of what's in your DNA and what's in your mother's womb, right? So my great-great-grandmother, who I actually can see her face and I can think of her in my mind, I know her name, her lineage, right? On my father's side and my great-great-grandmother on my mother's side, what was in their wombs is also in my nervous system. So yes, we all have our personal traumas that are happening in our lives, but we came with some as well. So when I invite you to savor your life and create sustainable practices of self-nurturing, my invitation is to be the undoing of all the wiring that exists in you, so that you can be the one who frees and liberates your lineage. And if you've already had children like me, and you're not going to make any more like me, by you changing your way of being and adopting emotional liberation for yourself, you can impart that on your children who are here and show them how to do it. And let them live differently from you. Let them experience life differently from you. Let them choose according to their birthright. So today, the first day of June, let us embark on this journey of the jewels of Juneteenth. Each week, I will go live with one more jewel. And I am also having events. So this week, June 3rd through 5th, I'm having my 3-day virtual retreat. When I first started publishing this, I didn't call it a retreat, but the more I thought about it and the more I started creating the content around it, I thought, this is a retreat. And a retreat, to be clear, does not require you to leave anywhere. You don't have to leave your body. You don't have to leave your mind. You don't have to leave your house. It's a choice to go within and really allow yourself to be with yourself, to be in your own energy. It's an offering, it's an opportunity for quietude. Doesn't that feel good? And you have that accessible to you just by being in your body. Now, I'm going to be honest. At first, it's not going to feel like savoring. It's going to feel like, what the actual Cordelia did you invite me to, right? Well, because it's kind of like when you put on a new pair of shoes, right? You bought those shoes, you tried them on at the store, and you're like, oh, these are for me, right? But then you wear them to that event that you bought them to wear them to, and you're like, oh my God, these shoes hurt. They're a lot tighter than I thought they were, right? And they feel a little bit uncomfortable, and you want to take them off. But as you find yourself enjoying the event and you move around the room and you interact with the people, you notice here and there, oh, you know what? Actually, they are loosening up. And with the 15th compliment you get about, oh, those are some cute shoes, then you're really feeling yourself, right? So this is, it's a temporary discomfort, which becomes a permanent, I would say, way of being. So from surviving to savoring, how to rewire your body for pleasure and emotional freedom is a 3-day virtual retreat. And just so you get to feel into your body, we begin on Tuesday night, right? And then not even 12 hours later, we meet again on Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. And then we again meet on Thursday night. And we close out our time together And over these 3 days, you'll get to feel what safety feels like in your body. You'll get to feel what pleasure and presence feels like in your body. And then you'll get to create rituals so that you can embody this new way of being. Now, I know that when I offer these free experiences, that it's a really great introduction to new ways of being. And it takes a special type of person to maintain that without community or support. So my invitation with this is I'm also launching my annual mastermind where you'll get to be in community, where you're savoring your life. And we'll deep dive into all the ways you can do that all year long. And yeah, so historically, you see me posting always about Sweet Walk Sunday, Magnetizing Monday, Sweet Talk Sunday, Magnetizing Monday, and all these different theme days. And when I first started my business, I used to have monthly themes. Some of you who are not new to me will know that. But those of you who are new to me will remember that it might have dropped off about 3 or 4 years in. So I'm resuming the practice of having monthly themes so that you can keep your whole life in complete alignment. So that will be part of the mastermind. And then, as you know, in April, I started having monthly The Beauty of Racism, right? It's kind of like I was leading up to the Juneteenth thing anyway. And at that time, I didn't actually intend to do anything about Juneteenth besides go to this local event that I spoke at last year. So the beauty of racism also is distinct from my mastermind because this is purely community service that I'm doing monthly. Now, I mentioned that if people want community specifically around the beauty of racism, right? So let's say you are not ready to invest in your complete emotional healing, but you want to just be able to go to work every day, right? And not be stressed out or be able to transmute what's coming at you. I think of racism as the extreme form of emotional abuse that everybody kind of gives a nod to, ignores, and um, and just kind of goes along with. So if you don't want to go along with the emotional abuse of racism, then the beauty of racism is an event that I'm offering as currently as a community service, and eventually it will be a paid community so that you have more structured support. So these are the events that I'll be offering during the month of June. And these are the invitations that I'm inviting you to as we move into the rest of the year, right? We're going into the third quarter now. Well, not yet. We're finishing up the second quarter of the year and going into the second half of the year pretty soon. And what I really want for you is to achieve emotional liberation, which is similar but different from healing, I would say, because when you're emotionally liberated, um, you're in your wholeness. You're in your body. And when you are not emotionally liberated, you're healing, right? Kind of like you have a wound and then you have to put salve on it and clean it up and all those things. But when you're emotionally liberated, then you see, you become like the Karate Kid. You see the things coming at you, and you can actually stop that energy and force and use that force against itself to go back to it where it came from, keeping you away from harm, keeping you uninjured so that no healing needs to happen. I hope you see the distinction there. And so I'll leave you with those thoughts around the jewels of Juneteenth and welcome you to the month of June and remind you that your life is something that you're missing if you're not being present. And life is truly lived in the subtleties. So don't miss another day or another second of being who you truly are. Reveal yourself to yourself so that you can reveal yourself to those you love. But most of all, savor your life by choosing joy and pleasure. Until next week, be free.